let's move on to the final part of this video, which is, of course, time and tested dinosaur facts. Although this time, it's not so much dinosaur, it's more pterosaur, because we have King right now, and he's a pteranodon, and he showed the ancient lost technique of how pteranodons hunted their prey back during the Cretaceous period. But so, no, today we're not talking about pteranodons. Today, for pterosaur facts, we're talking about the Quetzalcoatlus. All right. I have always loved this pterosaur, all right? When I was a kid, I was probably around maybe like 11 or 12 years old. I remember, I think it was the History Channel that came out with a special called Last Day of the Dinosaurs. And it's on YouTube. I've actually watched it recently. And it's just this idea of, like, you know, what happened in the last few days before the meteor hit, and then what happened, like, immediately after, okay? And it spotlights a few dinosaurs. Like, there's a pair of Triceratops, there's a pair of Quetzalcoatlus. So it was a really good special, and I always loved the Quetzalcoatlus because they were just giant, like, think of a pterodactyl, but way bigger and way more like bird-like with like feathers and stuff, okay? So the Quetzalcoatlus had the largest wingspan of any animal that's ever existed on this planet that we know of. I mean, we could always find something else that we've never discovered before, but it had the longest wingspan of any animal at 33 feet, a 10-meter long wingspan, okay? And these things stood so tall, they were comparable to giraffes. So just imagine if giraffes had giant wings and were flying around the sky. That's how big these Quetzalcoatlus were, okay? And it's not a surprise they were actually discovered in Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas. Yep. And so the fossil records were discovered in Texas. One fossil was discovered that was pretty big, and then another fossil was discovered shortly after that was a lot smaller, and the first indication was like, oh, okay, what if it was like the parent and then like the child? But then later on, some new research came about, and it's like it might have actually just been a very similar species. So not a Quetzalcoatlus, but a similar species. Along that point, there's some species that are similar to Quetzalcoatlus that have more like blunt beaks, and then the Quetzalcoatlus had much more protruding, kind of like Pteranodon, kind of like King, had the long beak or whatever. But just looking at these images, these artist renditions of what these things looked like, how big they were. Here's a chart comparing a human to like a giant dragonfly that lived. Everything was bigger during the late Cretaceous period, okay? Because I think there was a lot more oxygen, so insects and stuff can grow a lot bigger. There were giant centipedes. I mean, there still kind of are giant centipedes in our world, but even bigger. Giant dragonflies, giant insects, proportional to the level of oxygen that was in the atmosphere. But these Quetzalcoatlus, man, they were massive beyond reproach. I mean, these things coming at you from the sky, I mean, these things were literally so big. Like, in our world, like, you could see these things coming down and probably devouring, like, small horses or, like, ponies or whatever. Like, these things were so damn massive, okay? And just, like, giant shovel beaks coming down and just taking a pony and just devouring it, right? They were named Quetzalcoatlus after Quetzalcoatl, who is the Aztec god of, well, actually, it was like a giant feathered serpent. So it may have looked like this. It also may have looked like this, or it might have been a sexy dragon maid. Not really sure. It was one of the three. Or maybe all three. I don't know. It was a god, right? There you go. So, yeah, that's the Quetzalcoatlus, though. It's a pretty damn impressive thing. Like, I would have loved to travel back. Well, I don't know if I would even survive. See, that's the thing. Like, you often wonder, like, what would it be like if humans traveled back to the Cretaceous period or the dinosaur period? You know, what would it really be like? And it's like, well, you'd have to be worried about getting devoured by dinosaurs and giant, you know, Quetzalcoatlus. But I'm also thinking, like, wouldn't, like, diseases kill you first? Or, like, if an insect bites you, you're dead? You know, or, like, would there even be an adequate, like, there was a lot of oxygen in the air, so would you even be able to breathe correctly? Or would you even be able to do that, right? I'm not really sure, because if there's too much oxygen, that can actually, like, cause your eyes to go bloodshot, and you might not be able to breathe properly. That wouldn't be good. So, yeah. But if I could travel back in time in a sealed environmental suit, I would like to see the Quetzalcoatlus flying over and then go back to the future before they devour me, right? Okay, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This will be Tekking and Barry and Zorro and Enma signing out. Later, everyone.